Good evening. Hope you're all doing well. Today we are learning Maseches, Nedarim, Daf Mem Zayin. Very short blot tonight. We're starting on the top line, and we'll be going to the Mishnah on Mem Zayin and Beis, and then we'll stop. Rabbi Reznik's shiur for tomorrow is 17 minutes. I don't know what that means for us. We'll find out when we get here. But it is, we'll see. But tonight, it's a relatively clean set of two sugyas. And then we're done for the night. Let's start at the top of the page. Omer the Chavero quoting from our Mishnah, and the Gemara asks the following question. This is actually a repeat. We've had this question already on Daf Mem Beis. Konem labai zesha ta nichnas, a limitation for someone to enter into a house, and then the person who made that limitation. So Reuven owns the house. He makes the limitation on Shimon, and then Reuven is mace. O shemachro la'acher mahu. What is the din? If after he dies, he can't be a baal if he's dead. So if when he was alive he said you're not allowed to enter my house, neder. Fine, I understand that when he's alive, neder, you're not allowed to enter the house. But what happens after he dies? It says neder carry over after his death. Do we say Adam oser davar shebirshuso licha sheyetze merishuso? Oh no. Do we say that a person still has control over his property even after it has left his property? Alive or dead, let's say he sells it, no longer in his property. Am I limited from the house at 123 Main Street because Reuven said Shimon can never enter there? Or is it a din in his bailus, a din in his ownership of the house? So let's see. Amar Rabba, we have a raya brura, short sugya. Tashma, ha'omer levno konem shiata nehen eli umeis yirashenu. A father says to his son, terrible relationship. The father says, you cannot be the beneficiary of my Yerusha. And then the father dies. Allah is yirashenu. Well, that's clear. The father's not allowed to have control over the time, over the moment of his death. So once he dies, even though he said to the kid, no, not for me, but once he dies, the son can take the Yerusha, no problem. However, says this brisa, if the father is explicit and says that both while I'm alive and while I'm dead, and then umeis, then lo yirashan. What do we see from here? Shmamina adam oser davar shebirshusa l'chashiyetze mershuso shmamina. That a person does have the capacity, although it must be with specific language, not general language, a person does have the capacity to extend a status of Isser on a home, on a product, on an item, even beyond the grave. And all he has to do is be specific about his language, and that's the conclusion of the Gemara, similar to the conclusion we saw a number of blot ago. By Yerusha, we spoke about this earlier in the Masechta. What did we say? There's a way, the way his language has to be. It's not that he's saying that I'm not giving you my Yerusha. He says, you're not allowed to have enough for me. And that's considered removed enough to not be Masnal Mashkas Bator. What were you going to say, David?
Or you could set it up where he gives it all away a moment before he dies.
Also,
really practically speaking, what people do nowadays, because I don't think people are against Bishnai and all that stuff.
That's the unfortunate part.
Same.
Yeah. That's being Masna Masha Kosta Bator, even if it's mutter. Just hashkafically speaking, it's
you give it all away before death, and then there's no Yerusha.
Correct. Then it's equal. Then it's just
in whatever way you
right, or however you break it up. Yeah, depends how much you like the child. As a youngest child, I'm just saying. There's
we don't agree with him.
Yeah. What can I say?
What about if somebody else is Yoresh? Can then that person, that brother, wife, whatever, can that person then give it to the one that was the subject of the?
It's fascinatingly that's actually quite similar to the next case of the Gemara. It's not identical, but there are similarities, and I'm not sure what the answer is. But if I'm right that this case is similar to your question, then we'll have the answer in. Well, we actually won't have an answer because the Gemara concludes without an answer, but we'll talk about the sugya for a few minutes. So the Gemara opens halfway down on Mem Zayin Amud Aleph Tznan Hasam. We have a Mishnah over there that the Maseches Hashas says it's a whole 5 blot away on Daf Nun Beis. Konam peros elo alai, person makes a commitment about these fruits, neder, or konam hein alpi, or there's a different language, slightly different language, or konam hein lefi. All of them are similar languages of konam, of neder. So what does this Mishnah say? Aser, not only is that item itself aser, but aser b'chilufehen u'b'gilulehem. Not only is the item itself aser, but even if I'm doing a tmura of sorts, I swap it out, then that swapped item is now aser to me. And b'gilulehem, I take the seeds and plant them, the derivatives, the children of those fruits are also going to be aser. So that's what the Mishnah says over there. And the Gemara asks the following question: how far can we extend this halacha of aser b'chilufehen u'b'gilulehem? Boy Rami Bar Chama. Omar konem peros ha'elu al ploni. I'm going to make a limitation of on Reuven. Reuven is going to make a limitation of the fruits on Shimon. Ma'u b'chilufeihen. What then would be the status? You cannot eat these apples, Shimon. What then would be the status of the chilufein? Mi amrinan, do we say that gabe delay in regards to me, myself, and I, Ruvain, hova adam oser peres chavero al atzmo, adam oser davar shelo b'reshus, davar shelo bala olam al atzmo. I have no problem making something that's not mine aser on me, namely even the chilufein, even though they didn't exist at the time of the aser, I can certainly bring that upon myself. However, gabe chavero, when it comes to Shimon, I can't make Shimon's peros aser to Shimon. Therefore, I also have no control over the chilufein. So really, fundamentally, the question is, and we'll finish the other half of this question in a moment, is when we say that I can aser you on my property, am I able to also say the chilufein of that which I aser to you is also applicable to the chaver? So one half is no. O Dilma, on the top of Mem Zayin and base, perhaps Mishum de Chilufin Kigidulin Dami, since the Chilufin and the Gidulin, right? We said that the item is going to be carrots, right? So carrots can be swapped out for sweet potatoes, or the carrots which will yield carrots. So all three of them would be usher for me, myself, and I. If I'm the one ushering myself something on me, what about for a friend? Do we say the Chilufin Kigidulin Dami that they're so exactly the same that there's no difference? Lo shnahu v'lo shna chavero. Are they mamish the same thing? Or are they only halachically the same thing? The difference, okay, right? If the carrots are exactly the same thing as the chilufein and as the gidulin, so then once you aser one, you aser all the other. They're the same exact basket, even though they don't exist yet, even though the payers aren't there. But halachically, they're identical. Or do we say, no, they're only keh? It's not mamish the same. It's a step removed, right? In our language, it's a step removed, and therefore it wouldn't be aser to you. So the Gemara attempts answer number one, 2 lines down, Mem Zayin and Beis. Amar Rav Acha bar Minyumi, Tashma. Ha'omer le'ishto, if a man says to his wife, some of them, unfortunately, point out that we're talking about before they're actually halachically married. Konam shani nehen nelich, you're not allowed to benefit from me. What can she do? Lova, she's allowed to bury. She's allowed to borrow. Wow. Okay. A little Freudian slip there, sorry. Lova, she's allowed to borrow. Uba'ale chovin bain v'nifrain. And the people who are now the Ba'alei Chov can go collect from the husband. But she's not allowed to benefit from the husband. So my time, a Ba'alei Chov and Ifrain. Why is it that they're allowed to pay? Why is it that they're allowed to collect from the husband, from Ruvain? Lav mishum de chilufin, lav ki gidulin dami. Must we therefore have a raya? The chilufin and gidulin are not the same as the carrots themselves. Why? Because Lamaisa, at the end of the day, she's allowed to get hana through this avenue. The money that she actually got from the borrowers is not the money that the borrowers are going to recollect from Ruvain. And therefore, the Gemara says, maybe we see from here a raya barura that the chilufin are not the same as the item itself. Great question. The Gemara rejects this. Mem Zayin and Beis 6 lines down. Amar Rava, Dilma lechatchilahu delo. Maybe under ideal circumstances we would not do this, but the avad. But just okay, but the we allow, but it's not a din lechatchila. So therefore, we don't have a good answer for our question yet. Do we say that the item itself is exactly like the chilufin v'gidulin, or do we say that the item itself is not exactly like the chilufin v'gidulin? Again, we're only talking about in the case of a friend and not in the case of oneself. So therefore, halfway down in Mem Zayin, heading to the Mishnah, Ela Tashma, let's try again. Hamekadesh be'orla eina mikudeshes. If a person takes the fruits of a tree in the first 3 years, harad mikudeshes li beperos orla zukadas Moshe v'Yisrael eina mikudeshes, it's a 0. That makes sense. It's not yours. But however, look at this. Machran, v'kidesh b'dmehen, if you sell them and you're mekadesh them with the money, so in other words, the coins now have whatever kedusha there is, and then you give those coins, harezu mikudeshes. Wow. Why? It must be, it says the Gemara doesn't say this, but the interjection of the question is, it must be that chilufein and gidulin are not the same as the actual item itself. Because the orla didn't work for kedushin, yet the chiluf did work. Beautiful raya. The Gemara here says as well. Here too, this Mishnah might not be dealing with a case of a din lechatchila. Might only be dealing with a case of a din b'diavad. You're right, Taka. You're right, b'diavad, but it's not the right way to get married. So the Gemara rejects both of these questions, and we're really left without both of these suggestions, and we are left without an answer. What's interesting is that the Gemara doesn't even take the fact that it's mutter b'diavad as a raya, that be'etzem they are not the same. That's very unique to me. I'm saying this on my own. I didn't see this anywhere, but it bothers me. Like, because I was learning this, I'm like, yeah, but Lamaisa means it works. Even if it's a din b'diavad, we still learn one thing. Chilufein and Gedulim are not the same as the item itself. But the Gemara doesn't pick up on that. We can glean from the Gemara the midoraisa that's true. The only thing we must be talking about is within the world of Derabanan. Has to be. The only thing we're talking about is a din Derabanan, because otherwise we already have our answer in the Gemara. We'll stop right here. Tomorrow night we'll pick up with a new mission on the bottom of Mem Zayin and Mem Beis. Wishing you all a beautiful night. Is that a record? Is it a record? Where's Rabbi Resnick?